Sidekicks. The underappreciated heroes on the sideline. Often weaker than the hero themselves. For Bakugou Katsuki, however, this did not apply. Katsuki, the hero who was famous for his temper, fierce appearance, and multiple hero name changes, currently going by the name Bomber King, hired you to be his sidekick. Not to fulfill a support role, but to be his designated rival, which was admittedly highly strange and uncommon, and borderline outlandish. Especially because you essentially were the superior quirk user. Your quirk was called Exhilaration Theory, a supernatural quirk that allowed you to speed up particles in the air. These particles would then collide with each other, causing a violent explosion. Fitting for the hero currently known as Bomber King. Your quirk in essence did the same thing he did, just at a higher range, and slightly less power in exchange of that. Of course, over time, this little rivalry became more intimate. That was just a thing that happens when two people who are attracted to each other are pent up on a daily basis. It all started while the two of you were on the hunt for a serial killer, a villain named Bloodstained Sanctuary. But the villain alone wasn't the difficult part. It was traversing his hideout that was traumatizing. The villain had a knack for carpentry, which, considering his trade as a murderer, was a very disturbing combination. But as horrible as the scenario was, leading you to have a breakdown, it made him do something. Something that his friends and you considered a very out-of-character moment. He comforted you. Maybe it was him being affected by this as well, but this was the jumpstart to your strange relationship as a couple. Bakugou was incredibly rarely showing you any affection, choosing to rather train than spend time with you. Yet he sweared up and down that he had feelings for you. Of course, this settled a feeling of doubt in your gut, especially because the two of you had never made love. Admittedly, it was a strange thing to focus on, but it made you feel a little unattractive. And that this entire thing was either you imagining things, or him just badly trying to comfort you after a traumatic event. He was bad with words after all. Today was Christmas. While the holiday was now celebrated around the world, Japan absolutely embraced it with open arms in recent years, as it seemed to be the only time where villain activity went down. Officially, it was because of Christmas spirit and just the magic of giving, but in actuality it was simply the cold and jolly atmosphere that even the worst of criminals found a little intoxicating. Another of Bakugou's sidekicks, a former high school friend by the name of Red Riot, had thrown a Christmas party for the entire office. Everyone was there, even the interns. Everyone except for Bakugou himself. Honestly, you had been a little worried, but Red Riot assured you that's just something Bakugou did on occasion. As the party continued and the amount of alcohol Red Riot had brought was dwindling, the scattered conversations turned from light-hearted office talk to more juicy things, like rumors and secrets. It felt like you were back in high school. Eventually, you were approached by one of your colleagues, Gravity, another one of Bakugou's friends and employed pro at his agency. Her face was red and her mouth slightly quivering. "Oh, hey there!" she shouted at you, the music being a little loud. You waved at her and pulled up a chair next to you so she could sit, which she immediately did. She was a little shaky. "Maybe you should stop drinking," you chuckled with mild concern. She wasn't indulged, so she should handle a hangover, but, well, she was still your friend. "Yep, don't lecture me," she huffed. "How are you and Deku doing?" you asked. Gravity laughed and then hugged you. "He's said yes! You blinked, and as she retreated from you, you finally noticed the ring around her finger. Wow, congratulations, you shouted. She giggled. So, when are you and that oaf trying the knot? You blushed. So far you had kept your relationship with Bakugou a secret. How did she... You blinked. Of course. Bakugou most likely bragged about it while you weren't present. You quickly took a cheeky look around the room, wondering who of your co-workers and friends knew. But, roared Uraka before collapsing on the table with a satisfied grin. I didn't expect you to skip on him. You furrowed your brows. What are you talking about? Your friend opened one eye, staring right at your face. Are you serious? She muttered. Both of you went quiet for a minute. Wait, you're serious? Instantly the heroine was sober. Girl, I don't... Oh, honey. Rarity sat up straight. Did Bakugou not tell you, or didn't you get the hint? You looked at your feet, trying to remember the past 2 days. There didn't seem to be anything. Dede was so excited that you'd skip out on the party, to spend the night with you. She winked. You know what that means, right? You blushed. When did he hint at that? She shrugged. Judging by what he shouted at Deku in a dumb attempt at bragging, around the time Kirishima, Red Riot planned the entire thing in the first place. You vaguely remembered telling Bakugou that you didn't like parties. My guess is he probably said something like, if you don't like parties, then come to me where it's quiet. Your eyes widened. Oh. Your body shook as you were overwhelmed with emotions. Oh, you said louder. He said, then why not spend it at my place? I hate loud music too. But then I said we need to go. It's our duty as the poster heroes of the agency. Rarity laughed. Are you seriously? Do you seriously think he'd listen to that? She nudged your shoulder with her elbow. Girl, he's probably sitting at... He's probably sitting at his place, sipping some eggnog and waiting for you to show up. Your body was overwhelmed with a deep feeling of shame. Both because you didn't pick up on that, and the fact that you only heard from this through his bragging towards his friends. I'll kill him. That's probably what he's thinking too, chuckled Rarity. She then slapped you on the back. Hey, go to him. I'll get the station clear, okay? You deadpanned. Considering how intoxicated you are, you thought. I doubt that, but fine. With a heavy heart, you stood up, said goodbye to Red Riot and your other hero friends, before making your way to Bakugou's expensive apartment. Since your relationship started, he spent a small fortune on luxury items, obviously in an attempt to impress you, and you hated yourself for the fact that, well, it did. The car ride only took 5 minutes. Bakugou had a policy that every person working at his agency was not allowed to live more than 10 minutes away from the main office by means of using a car. Just in case there was an emergency. In fact, from his apartment balcony you could see the office building the agency was in. The house's elevator slowly ascended you towards the 10th floor. Bakugou really got a kick out of living on the highest floor, didn't he? Using a spare key, you entered his apartment. It was kept in a minimalist style, white floors and walls, and the furniture was square-shaped and white as well. However, your eyes widened as you entered. It was wonderfully decorated. In the middle of his giant living room stood an artificial tree that reached up to the ceiling. With an amused huff, you noted that, due to the minimalism of the thing, the colors of the Christmas decorations popped even more. Slowly you walked through your boyfriend's place. "Bakugou?" you asked into the room. No answer. You entered his kitchen. There was a fresh cake on top of the oven, a single slice missing. But by now it was cold. On the kitchen counter was a small selection of gourmet snacks, like slices of mozzarella on homemade ciabatta bread, with oil and diced tomatoes. Of course, by now the oil had soaked the bread. You looked around yourself. No one was looking, right? With a cheeky grin, you grabbed one and began eating it. It tasted absolutely delicious, despite the soggy bread. Then you proceeded back into the living room. Bakugou had a fireplace that had been hidden behind the tree. In front of it was a tiger pelt carpet, and on it was a strange flesh-colored bundle. You blushed slightly as you approached. No, it couldn't be. Immediately you swallowed the bite of bread you still had in your mouth before dashing towards the thing. Of course, it was Bakugou. Parts of his body covered by thin Christmas present wrapping. The only piece of clothing he wore was red underwear and white socks. His eyes were closed and he was snoring. You sighed. What in the hell was he thinking? But it only took you a minute to know exactly what he was doing here. With a deadpan expression, you gently nudged his head with your foot. "Bakugou?" You spoke gently. He didn't react. You poked him a little harder. "Bakugou." This time you said it with a little more energy. He still didn't budge, but he also stopped snoring for a split second. You smiled. He was pretending. Probably because you took so long. Jeez, let me take a picture of this. The guys at the office will lose their minds. You pretended to take out your phone when Bakugou seemingly jumped awake. "Don't you dare!" he shouted. You giggled as he tried to get on his feet, but his present wrapping bondage setup made him stumble and fall on his face. He wiggled helplessly on the ground. "Okay, seriously, what in the hell are you doing?" "I'll kill you if you take that picture," he shouted. "Oh, really now?" You snorted. "What are you doing, Bakugou?" you asked. "I waited for you for hours," you huffed. "Didn't you say you hate parties?" "I do, but I never said I won't attend." He growled, but didn't say anything further. You sat down next to the squirming hero. "So, what now?" After about 5 minutes of him trying to free himself, he stopped all movement and just muttered, Unwrap your gift." You licked your lips and gently stroked through his spiky blonde hair. "And what if I don't?" Taking your obvious fake threat as serious, he once again began to squirm. "I'll kill you," he shouted. Thank God this floor only housed his decadent apartment. Gingerly you took hold of one of the wrapping bows on his back, and the entire bondage wrapping unfolded. The man was free. He rolled on his back, out of breath, his face a grimace. "Was this supposed to be hot?" you asked. He growled but didn't say anything. Admittedly, it kinda was. It just didn't fit his personality. At all. A few minutes later, the two of you found yourself on his sofa. He hadn't spoken since his last death threat. While you just smugly grinned at him, after a while, he finally spoke up. shame in his voice.
Hiroshima always talks about the kinky stuff he's doing with Mina. I wanted to try it.
You snorted.
What?
He barked. But we haven't even done anything yet. You're skipping like 6 steps. Bakugou blushed.
Every time I tried to initiate anything, you just made a stupid joke.
You blinked, now thinking back at all your interactions, wondering when he thought he tried.
I thought you were one of these who only like super strange stuff. Or one of those weird internet people who claim to not like anything at all.
You scratched over your head. So
I wanted to try this kinky stuff first. Yes.
You smiled. You know, you could have just asked, you dork. He blushed angrily.
I was afraid of the answer.
Afraid of what? He shrugged. You leaned forward and kissed his cheek. The blonde blushed immediately. Even if I wasn't into anything, I'd still do anything with you. I like you. A lot, you know? Bakugou blinked.
So, this would have worked?
He pointed at the remains of his, experiment. No, it was too silly. He blinked and then looked down at the floor. Then you licked your lips and whispered into his ear, "So, Mr. Wasted Opportunity." Slowly you reached up through the buttons on your blouse, opening the first 3. Do you want to waste this one too, or dig in? Bakugou's eyes widened, and he turned to face you.
What are you talking about?
You leaned back on the sofa as you continued to undress. What I mean is, if you don't start kissing and fondling me right now, I kick you in the nuts. His mouth turned into a weird mixture of horny grin and dumbfounded smile as he climbed on top of you, his crimson eyes focused on yours. Go on, he whispered. Kiss me, you dork.